Educating the youngest of learners. Welcome to Newsmakers. I'm Lisa Oligas. In this edition, we look into the Lion Cub Academy, a learning-based daycare and preschool on the campus of Missouri Southern State University, and its adoption of the conscious discipline system with training by a nationally certified instructor, Amy Spidell. We begin our conversation first with the director of Lion Cub Academy, Nikki Tapana, Alyssa Sparland, lead preschool teacher, and Diane Dillon, lead pre-K teacher at Lion Cub Academy. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thanks for having us.
So the Lion Cub Academy is licensed by the Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, is open to the public, and it's for kids 1 to 6 years old. So Nikki, start by telling us, why did we start this academy? What was, the incentive to have this on campus?
It started here in '85.
Wow, way back.
Way back. Yes, so it's been ongoing for a long time, but it was a need for students that were here or faculty and staff that needed childcare during the day while they were working. So they opened it up so that we could have that here, and also as a lab school so that our teacher education majors could actually work with the children.
Excellent. So with the age range of 1 to 6, you have a variety of approaches to teaching kids and caring for them. So tell us about the different various age groups and staffing. So Miss Alyssa, tell us what might be different about what you do since you're doing preschool.
So since I'm doing preschool, I have 2 to 3 year olds. So that looks a lot different from 1-year-olds, and it looks a lot different from 4 to 5 year olds. They tend to have much bigger emotions that they are just starting to realize that they have. And so it can be challenging. So I help with a lot of co-regulation with them, figuring out what they are feeling, and so that when they can move on to pre-K, they have a little bit better grasp of how they're feeling, they can name their emotions, and they kind of know how to deal with them in a productive manner.
Is a lot of this through, we don't want kids sitting at a desk when they're really young. They're playing a lot. This
Yes.
is kind of play-based learning as well. So are there learning concepts that are when you engage them?
Yes. So we do our best to sit down with them and play in the centers that they have. So we'll have like a reading center or a home living center that they play in, and we have conversations with them. So because that is how they pick up vocabulary, it's how they pick up concepts. They learn through their play. It's just the best way for them to pick up everything in the world.
Yeah. So Diane, tell us, you are a pre-K instructor. So what is a little bit of the difference, and what do we start honing, I guess? Is there more relationship building at that age?
Oh, absolutely. We are getting ready to go to kindergarten. So that's what we're working on throughout our year, is how we're learning how to line up, we're learning how to socialize, we're working more on regulating our emotions. We've also learned at this age about injustice, and so
Life isn't fair.
Life is not fair, and so we have learned to tattle. So one of the things that we work on a lot is using our big voice and helping to fix that ourselves. Go to the person and say, stop, I don't like it when you push me. Walk around me next time. And we work on this a lot so that they learn to take care of themselves. Yeah. They learn, and their kindergarten teacher is going to be very grateful.
So Nikki, talk to us a little bit about how this can be a help for students who go to this university to have this opportunity to work in an environment with kids already.
When you're able to work one-on-one, you get the firsthand experience of being able to see what children can do, because in classes we can get told a lot about theory and practice and what we know, but getting out there really with the children makes a complete difference, and you actually get to see what you're being told being done.
So, and then this is available for faculty, staff, and the public. Can students actually bring their children there, and then can financial aid cover the cost of this?
We can use your financial aid. We take state assistance. We take tribal assistance. I even have military assistance now. Any way that I can find a way to help you pay for it, I will. Right now we have 2 pre-K grants. Miss Dillon's class, and then my other class over at Taylor Hall has this, where the state is actually paying for the children.
Wow.
To come to school. They pay for the 8 to 3 time, and then parents can stay between 7 and 5:30 too, and it costs them $37 a week.
Wow, that's amazing. So
Yes.
there are preschools in the world and daycares.
Yes.
Where do we see the difference of what is daycare, what is not. And we do expect, I mean, if we're sending our children away from us the day, you know, there's a thing called parents as teachers. We want them to be learning even in their littlest moments. So what are some of the things that, you know, kind of denote the difference and that we're nurturing even the youngest of kids?
My teachers, all of my teachers have degrees. So they work with that. We have a lot of student workers that work for us. And we try to really put in, there's Missouri Early Learning Standards. We look at the standards, we see where children need to be. We go to where they are and we try to bring them up to where they need to be so that they can be successful when they move on to public school.
So you brought in a trainer who's going to be talking about conscious discipline. So why is it, well, we're going to talk about that in a moment, but you've already sort of implemented some of those things. So tell us while you're here, what you think of conscious discipline and how it maybe empowers you as an employee.
Well, conscious discipline has given me a lot of tools for helping my students. Jumping in, I didn't really exactly know what I was doing at first because it was my first teaching job. But learning about conscious discipline, it taught me how to deal with behaviors, how to connect with the children, and we've really built a community in our classroom, and it's been very helpful for teaching the children about helpful behaviors and how to get along with others. And it's put a lot of experience under my belt, and I feel like it's helped out a lot.
I mean, gave you something when kids tend to have meltdowns.
Yes.
Have you seen it happen already?
Oh, absolutely. Day one.
Day one, okay. So Diane, tell us what you think. How has conscious discipline been helping you? And we're going to talk more about what it is, but how do you think it empowers you as a teacher?
I think it's really changed my teaching. It makes me see my children differently. Makes me wish I'd known about it when I had my own kids.
I see, because you've been in preschool education for more
A
than
long
2
time,
decades, right?
yes. And I didn't know about conscious discipline until I came here, and I completely embraced it. It's really helped my classroom management. My children, we've developed a family. We're a school family. Their favorite song to sing in the mornings is How We Are a School Family.
Yeah.
And working with each other on being safe. My job is to keep them safe, and their job is to help me keep them safe.
And when you were working at another preschool, were there some things that still worked, but what makes the difference? I mean, you enjoyed it obviously enough to do it for decades.
I did it for a long time. It's just understanding where they really are developmentally has helped. And I have a degree in elementary education with an emphasis in early childhood education, but they weren't teaching this self-regulation then.
Okay.
I didn't learn that, and it has been life-altering for me.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for talking all about Lion Cub Academy. We're going to take a break, and we'll talk after this break. We will be back with the national instructor, Amy Spidell, so don't go away.
Circle Time for pre-K students is a chance to wish others well and do activities preparing them for kindergarten. Part of that is interacting with others, and at Lion Cub Academy, they utilize conscious discipline.
It's really just about taking a step back before acting on something. Like if something's frustrating you or making you mad, you take that step back and you assess the situation so you know how to handle it.
Preschoolers also learn through play, which can lead to jealousy over toys, but training kicks in to diffuse a tussle over a toy car.
And so we talk to them about what we see and what solutions there could be for the situation.
The choices help empower little ones to learn self-control, and when taken to a safe space, they regain calm through deep breaths, something all practice here.
So we go over to them, we make sure that we are calm before we approach them, so we take deep breaths if we need to.
Because if you're just like yelling at the kids, they're not going to understand what they're actually doing wrong. Where if you take a step back and then you talk to them about what the problem is, then they'll understand for future reference.
What do you need for it? Picture!
Welcome back to Newsmakers, where we are talking about early childhood education at Lion Cub Academy and training there for conscious discipline. That is defined as a trauma-informed, brain-based self-regulation program rooted in neuroscience, child development research, and psychology. The goal is for adults to foster a safe, connected environment where kids can learn and problem solve. National trainer Amy Spidell is in town to train staff at the Lion Cub Academy on how to operate with conscious discipline. She joins us now along with Nikki Tapana, director of Lion Cub Academy. Welcome, ladies. Thank you for being here, Nikki and Amy. So, Amy, we hear the word discipline and thoughts might jump to taking kids to task, being stern, punishments. Describe for us, though, what is conscious discipline?
Conscious discipline really is an adult first transformation. So it's about how we discipline ourselves consciously in order to be the model and respond to children in the way that we want them to learn. So often we do the very things that we don't want them to do. I yell at you to be quiet. I grab you to say, keep your hands to yourself. All of those kinds of things that are knee-jerk responses. When we become conscious of what is it that I do want you to do in this moment, rather than I'm just trying to stop you from doing what you're doing, then we become the advocate for teaching them how to pick up the best possible tools.
Okay. So, and you mentioned tools. So, Nikki, why do you feel this would be a good fit for the Lion Cub Academy?
We're at the university. We need to be one of the best. So when I first started recognizing conscious discipline and learning a lot about it and watching a lot of videos by Becky Bailey, I bought in, or as we like to say at my place, I drank the Kool-Aid. And I'm like, there's got to be a better way. Just disciplining children and taking things away or putting them in timeout, it wasn't teaching them anything. We needed to teach them those skills. As I tell my parents, I don't want them to show up on live PD because they don't know how to regulate their emotions.
Right. So part of the focus is on what's called social emotional intelligence. So can you guys define that for me, and how do we nurture that in children, Amy?
The difference in social emotional intelligence is that you are learning the skill of self-regulation, and oftentimes we stop at the I'm going to have impulse control or I'm going to have self-control, which is I'm trying to control my emotions instead of understand them. And so self-regulation and teaching them about that is all about when emotions bubble up, it's similar to your senses. So if you smell something, what are you smelling? You want to know about that, and you want to know whether it means this is safe to eat or it's not, or this is something that I enjoy smelling or it's a skunk. So it gives me information. Your emotions bubble up in that same kind of way, and they give you information. What is that information? So in saying to a child, you seem frustrated, you wanted that to go differently, we link an emotion with the event so that they know, now what could you do to be successful in that moment? So if I know how to manage me, I recognize the emotion, and then I recognize it's giving me that information of this isn't going well for you. What are my options now? And that's where all of that is about learning in the moment, learning in the moment. Do I walk towards it? Do I walk away from it? Do I make sense of it? Do I put it on the back burner? So really what we've done in our country for so long is we've buried our emotions. And then they just blast out instead of...
I mean, people say, I needed to scream, you know? But so we don't necessarily want people to scream, but sometimes they say, get it out. So is there a difference between let it out? You know, I mean, sometimes you have to let that frustration or anger go. So how does that work with kids who really do want to throw a tantrum?
And when they throw a tantrum, what they're saying is, this is the best I've got at the age that I am now. And it doesn't matter what age you are. If this is the best I've got at 50, then this is the best I've got at 50. But if I'm screaming and somebody can make sense of this big sensation that's just happened in my body and say, you seem scared, you weren't sure what was happening next, then now, every time I feel that same sensation, it's like, oh, this is scared. I'm going to look for somebody that will help me stay safe.
Or it can be just that they're angry.
If anger comes up, and oftentimes we look at anger as a cover story for scared or sad, because it's vulnerable to be scared or sad, and it feels powerful to be angry.
Okay.
So if we look at anger as this moment is too much for me, rather than you're being obnoxious or disobedient or disruptive to the rest of the group, all of those kinds of things, if I can look past that behavior and see a child who is calling for help, then I offer support rather than judgment. And when I offer judgment, I tend to match their emotion. right? I'm going to be angry at your anger. Does that make sense?
You bet, yeah.
Yeah. So instead of being angry at your anger, I become curious about your anger.
Tell me why you're so frustrated.
Yeah,
Or tell me why
and
you're upset.
before we say, tell me why, we've got to acknowledge the emotion as it is. You seem
I
frustrated.
see that you are, yes.
Yeah. And you seem frustrated. You wanted that to go differently, allows them then to be curious about, wow, something didn't go the way I wanted it to. Once they say that and we acknowledge it, and again, it doesn't mean we say, oh, sure, we'll give you the extra cookie. We say, no wonder that was frustrating. You love these cookies and you were hoping to have more and it is disappointing. That's how you build the resiliency around disappointment. So when you can come up and understand the story, it's hard to wait until tomorrow, isn't it? But you can do this because you have it in you. That's the connection that the teachers at Lion Academy know to do. It's the, I'm going to make the connection with you so you know it makes sense, and yet you're still not getting the cookie. And so it's the, I'm not giving in.
Right,
I'm just
okay.
not blaming you for being disappointed.
Okay. Because there are parents out there who've had the terrible 2s. Actually, some people say it's terrible 3s. All kinds of ideas for dealing with emotional children. Conscious discipline includes teachers teaching the self-regulation or managing feelings. And you've already described sort of what that looks like with a child. Some might argue that toddlers aren't always logical. So,
Oh, not even close.
So is there
No.
another way to describe coping skills to a kid? Yeah.
That's why it's an adult first transformation. The energy that I hold from your first breath into this planet, the calm that I hold within me tells you the world is safe and calm. And when we are disrupted, they're disrupted. So we are the co-regulators. So if you move into that 2-year-old stage, and 2 is when emotions kick into high gear because they recognize their own independence. So that's when we
If I
talk
do
about autonomy.
this, I might get that.
Yeah, exactly. And they confuse, just like we do when we go to Target, they confuse wants and needs. So I need that cookie, and we're going, no, you don't get that cookie because you just want it. So that's when we have the tenderness towards that disruption. They're learning, and it's not any different than when they learn to walk and we're gentle about the fact that you're going to fall over still. We know you're going to fall over, but we're encouraging you to walk more, right? Or when you start eating, we don't go from the I'm feeding you to here's a set of cutlery. So it's the steps in between that say, we're guiding you in this emotion by being present to it when it happens, knowing that you have no capacity yet to be able to regulate that on your own.
Okay. So, I mean, there are parents out there who are nervous as new parents. And a big buzz thing now is to use your words. I mean, I've heard other moms say that. And to share your feelings. Does it truly reduce fits, which are often part of childhood? I mean, you know, and do we have differences in the kids' temperaments? I mean, some kids are more mellow and others are born
Absolutely.
ready to go.
And I'll tell you, I was a parent coach at a pediatric practice for 10 years in the midst of doing all of this. And I can tell you that the parents who have those calm children have this belief that I just did it right. And then they have a second one.
Who is nothing like the
It
first.
doesn't go so well. And all of a sudden you realize, wow, there's something more to this than just, if I'm calm, they're calm. It doesn't, because I'm being calm doesn't mean that you're going to just acquiesce to that right away. It means that I'm giving you the best model possible to know the route to take. And that's why our kids who are more explosive require more calm in the adult, because otherwise we're just joining their explosion.
Right.
And then there is no other way to do it. So it does, oh my gosh, it's hard. And it does take time. And it is exhausting because
And in that moment when they're frustrated, when you say use your words, well,
they can't
they're
use
already
words.
like they're already at 99%.
If
So-
you're at 99% and I said, use your words,
Yeah.
you'd probably slap me. So it's, I
it's
don't
the
know
ask
how
somebody
to do
to
that.
calm down, and
Yes.
they're not going to calm down, kind of that phrase.
So we
Nobody
use
is
our
asked to do that.
we use our calm to speak before we open our mouth. My calm is if your heart rate's going like this and I'm saying use your words, it's not going to go well.
Yeah.
But if I'm calm, I'm already building that into the system. And I'm saying the words so that you can pick them up. You seemed frustrated. You wanted that to go differently. That's why we use our words in service of them finding their words.
Okay.
So it's you, it's not I. When we say, I know you're angry, we often say, but this is what was really happening, or but this is what's going to happen. So I don't say I, we say you. You seem frustrated, you wanted that to go differently. And that opens up the channel of curiosity of, I am feeling frustrated, I did want that to go differently. And that's where you start to pass it on to them.
Okay. So Becky Bailey created this system, and part of it includes a pyramid model. So Nikki, tell us about that, and what is that? How does that work?
Well, you have to start with your brain. First is your survival state. We're born with our survival state, fight or flight. And children have that. When they're in that state, they're not going to talk to you. It's more the screaming, the yelling, the kicking around on the floor. But you have to know that they're doing the best that they can right then. So my job is to stay calm and to just breathe. And that's what I do most of the time.
So
I
what
breathe
does she
with
mean
them.
by the pyramid model, though?
It's the brain states. Is where our brain is at different times, like survival state, then emotional state, and then we're at the
Intelligence.
Yes, where our brilliance
Executive
happens.
state.
But you need to kind of connect then all three of those together. It's about making connections, right?
Right,
Yes.
and what we tend to do is we go right to that executive state. Once I tell you, you know better than that. And kids as young as 2, they hear, you know better than that. That's the knowing. The doing happens when we feel safe enough and connected enough to want to pick up the tools to actually operate in that moment. So a big part of this is the more connected we are, the more cooperative we are. And every adult knows that. We cooperate way better with people that we're connected to, even people that we love. You irritate me, then I'm going to disconnect from you. I don't want to help you at all. But if I'm connected with you, I'll go the extra mile. So with kids, that's what the teachers in the school have really paid attention to is you build that school family. When there's a challenge and one child solves a problem with another child, that child feels compelled to want to do it differently because they already have the connection with that child. And if they don't, then we go back and say, okay, we need to fix that safety level so that they feel safe enough to connect. So it's always you start at that safety, then connection, then problem solving.
So Nikki, you mentioned to me that a lot of schools are adopting conscious discipline. How does it differ from other programs in public schools? And can this be at any age level? I mean, are we adopting it at the early childhood level? Or you mentioned, some people, they haven't learned it when they're 10, 20, 30 years old. Can it be adopted universally?
It can. A conference that we went to, CD1 in Liberty, Missouri, there were high school teachers there because it can start as late as high school. We still don't know how to regulate our emotions, so if someone can help us that late, it can only help. I mean, it'll help us. I use it with my husband. So, yeah. I mean, it's just a way that I keep myself in check a lot because it is an adult first. It's about me and how I approach the children and how I approach my coworkers and how I approach parents and different things. You have to be thinking, what is my state right now?
So it mentions that it's described as trauma informed. Why is it necessary for our teachers to have that aspect? I mean, are we seeing kids come to school that might be coming from really an unsafe environment?
And we actually say that it's trauma responsive.
Okay.
So although there is an informational piece in there, there's lots of ways to get trauma information. But knowing what to do about it is the structure, is the challenge. So teachers hear about all of the trauma that kids come with. What are we supposed to do about that? And so that idea of building that safety and connection at all levels is one of the ways that we make the inroads. And we have strategies for older kids of what do you do to build a different internal concept around your personal safety? Because that's the blockage. If I don't believe that the world is safe, then why would I pick up the tools that others are using that help them be safe? I've got to know that it works for me.
There are some parents out there who say, well, I raised good kids. They're really, how similar is this to simply having really good manners? And I mean, we also have that book that Everything I Needed to Know I Learned in Kindergarten by Robert Fulghum. I mean, a lot of that is how to share. Are a lot of these lessons incorporated in this?
Absolutely. And I love the idea of everything I needed to learn, I learned in kindergarten, because some people didn't learn it. And then, you grow up and you're an adult, and I don't know exactly how to get through this situation. So we also learned when the world doesn't go your way, yell at it. So it's not so much that we're ripping out everything that we've done before. It's that we're paying attention to what was the long-lasting message that we got from that. So if one of the things I ask parents, our teachers and parents, is how many of you have ever thought, I never would have talked to my parents the way I hear kids talking to their parents today? And what was the reason why? Because I would have been in big trouble. It's not about giving up the expectation. It's about not putting the punishment or the shame in place of teaching. So all we're doing is we're taking out punishment and shame, and we're inserting teaching and relationship, so that I learn how to control me instead of I better behave so you're not upset with me. That's the difference.
So if a teacher wasn't raised this way, and I mean, it's strategies to learn or to speak that way, is it hard for an adult to really modify?
Yes. It is really hard because your mental models control your statements when you're in a heated situation. So everything that we teach foundationally is check your own heart rate. Just like what Nikki was saying, I've got to check in with me before I open my mouth. And with young kids in particular, and especially with children who have been involved in trauma, they're paying attention to your energy, your heart rate, more than they're paying attention to your words or the look on your face.
Right.
So I can smile and still be irritated.
Yeah.
And they know that, and that's what creates the dissonance. That's what creates the dysregulation within them.
So one more question, playing devil's advocate, there are plenty of people in our area who would say, I learned from getting a spanking. You know, are there consequences? Some would say, it's not just about trying to be nicey-nicey. So what are the consequences in conscious discipline?
The consequences are you take responsibility for the mess that was created. So a consequence in spilling something is you learn to clean it up. A consequence in saying something hurtful to another person is you learn to do that differently and say it differently.
And apologize?
And the apology, and again, we all appreciate I'm sorry, but some of us feel a little irritated when somebody says I'm sorry over and over, but they don't change. So the consequence is I'm going to learn to do it differently instead of continually apologizing for it. And learning to do it differently, even as an adult, is way harder than just saying sorry. So, or just saying, I don't know why you're so sensitive about that. All of those kinds of things are cover stories for, I don't want to have to pay attention to how I might say it differently or do it differently or respond differently. If I'm off and I'm irritated, no wonder I'm not getting the response from my kids that I was hoping to get. So spankings probably did work on some level. They sure didn't teach a skill set.
All right. Well, thank you for so much great information, Amy Speidel. Appreciate it. Well, lots of great information. Thanks to our special guest for sharing so much about early childhood education, and thank you for watching Newsmakers. Good night.